Welcome everyone, welcome to The Crowned Life, and today I want to talk about what to do when life feels like it's out of your control, which I think a lot of people are probably feeling right now with what's been going on a macro level. You know, with this global shutdown, a lot of people have not been able to get the forward movement with their lives that they've wanted to. And for some of you, maybe this is more on a micro level. It could be like, you know, a breakup of a relationship, just something on the everyday, you know, that could happen, a loss of a job or something like that. So I want to talk about how to deal with life not going as planned or as hoped or as wished for. Is something I'm going through right now. You see all these boxes back here? I've been trying to move on with my life, and that has been at a standstill, you know, and so, you know, I might share a little bit of that with you in this video just to personally relate to what you're going through. And definitely, as we're in this video, think about what these boxes represent for you, because I know what they represent for me. You know, it's this future that's just, you know, on hold, waiting to be opened up, you know. So think about that. And, you know, as we get into this video, we're going to talk about what to do with the discouragement when we're hoping and wishing and waiting, and maybe feeling discouraged or uncertain because of the economy or the job market or, you know, who knows what, that might be leaving you feeling trapped, stuck, disempowered, and incapable of making any meaningful change in your life, because maybe you're feeling at the mercy of other people or other forces that are out of your control. And I gotta say, you know, this entire scenario that we're talking about here, it really brings into question a popular New Age belief that we create our own reality. And so I want to talk about that just quickly to say, do we really create our own reality? Did I create this global shutdown? I think not, but other people have. So there's some truth to the ideology, I think. Yeah, I've got free will, but so do other people. And, you know, I do believe that we're co-creators, but, you know, this is a scary thought, even for me, because, you know, if you believe like I do that others have free will and they use it in ways that are sometimes not taking your best interests as their own, well, that can be a very disempowering feeling. That can make you feel very much out of control, and that others are in control. This is really not a good thing. So if you've been struggling with those feelings, I want you to know that so have I. They're very real, and I'm not at all going to diminish those feelings, you know, if you have them. I'm not going to be one of these spiritual gurus who's peering down at you from an ivory tower like, why are you having these human feelings? Oh, I have them. Let's talk about them, you know. Yeah, I gotta say also that recently I was talking to a friend dealing with these issues. The two of us were sharing, and I said to her, you know, it really feels like at this time in my life that life is a series of circumstances being presented to me where we have to choose what losses and sacrifices we're willing to take and make, and then understand why. It's like, when in life do you get like all the best choices? You know, it's like very rare that you get a bunch of great choices to choose from and you're struggling. My God, it's so many good options here. Let me just pick. You know, I know some of you people are very much into law of attraction, all that. They're going to say, well, that's the way you think and that's the way you feel. Well, I want to speak to those of you who have felt the way that I'm sharing with you, that you've got nothing but bad choices to choose from. And what I'm going to do, because those of you who are all about your law of attraction and that works for you, you don't need this video. You're doing good. You know, you can go on to the next. I don't know, cat video or something. Okay, but for those of you who relate to what I'm saying, I'm going to share with you 4 tips on how to get your power back through acknowledging the truth, accepting the truth, reassessing your values, and refocusing on what you do have control over. That's 4 steps. And I'm going to also help show you how to break mindsets that might keep you stuck. And if you stay tuned to the very end, then I'll show you how to rise up, redefine, and rebuild your life even when it feels like it's out of control. And by the way, please, if you can, help me feed the, YouTube algorithm monster by doing something that I hate to ask, and I know you're tired of hearing me and other channel, creators ask you to do, and that is hit the like button. Leave a comment, because when you do that, it helps me to reach more people. Sorry, gotta ask it. And those of you who are doing it without being asked, thank you so much. Okay, let's start off with step 1, acknowledge the truth. And what is the truth? It's in the here and now. It's in what is. And sometimes this is a very sobering revelation about what can and cannot be changed. It might not be what you want to hear, but what you need to hear, right? And it's a really critical step, because it's often the step that we avoid for a very long time, as long as possible, because sometimes we are avoiding this truth because we're avoiding having to be responsible for other areas of our lives that would be impacted by accepting the truth. For example, if I accept that I'm in a relationship that's empty and over, then what? Then that means that, I have to deal with the ramifications of getting a divorce, maybe becoming a single parent, things like that. I have to face serious losses, possibly alone. This could be life-changing for me if I accept this truth, being in a relationship maybe with someone who is toxic and refuses to heal, but refusing to see that you can't fix this, you can't heal this, getting to a place where you finally accept the truth about this. Well, then what? Then you have to come face to face with the very thing that you've been avoiding for a very long time. Of, I'm going to have to get on without this person. I'm going to have to make a life without them. I'm going to have to maybe deal with sacrifices and struggle that I'd rather not. And so when you get to the truth of now, of what is, sobering and offensive as that truth might be, then you've got to really sit with how that truth makes you feel and be fully present with those emotions, which isn't easy and it isn't quick. And when I say sit with it, I'm saying you've got to really let it sink in, what it means for you. Feel what it feels for you to not get that person, that relationship, that job, that whatever, that home loan, that, I don't know, the approval of whatever. Okay, fill in the blank. What does that mean to you? And I think if you're doing enough personal healing work, you will come to this realization that it's really, the pain is not about necessarily the person or the job or the whatever, but it's about what that represented to you, what you thought having it would bring to you. For example, having that loving partner, or who you thought was loving or you hoped would be loving, not having that means not having the support and companionship that you value in your life. Or if it's a job, not having the abundance and the security that you had hoped and believed that job would bring you. When you sit with these feelings, realize the truth that this person or thing isn't going to meet that need. Again, painful, but for whatever reason, they're not going to do it. Either they can't or they won't. But outside of all the reasoning behind it, and when we get caught up in the reasoning, we're trying to fix and heal. When you just accept and surrender this is broken and I can't fix it because this person doesn't want it to be for whatever reason or is unwilling to, then you start really working on finding your power in the now, in reality. Sometimes that's really hard for us to get to a point where you have to, you've done a lot. Like I've packed all these boxes in faith that an opportunity is going to be brought my way so that I can move on with my life. But I've recently had to get to a place where I had to accept, okay, that job isn't getting offered, or that pay increase isn't getting offered, the raise, the promotion, or that person is not offering me a commitment, or, an exclusive relationship, whatever. I haven't met the one, this, whatever it is to you, okay? You realizing, in my situation, that move's not happening presently. Doesn't mean that it's never going to happen, but presently, in the here and now, these boxes that have been sitting here for 3 months, as far as I know, aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And that's the bitter truth of it. That's the sober truth of it that I have to accept, painful as it is. And when we come to this place of accepting maybe things that we'd rather not, we have to recognize the futility of trying to fix something that's not going to be fixed, or trying to make the impossible possible. It's really soul destroying and disempowering to keep trying to bang your head up against a brick wall that, your reality is telling you is a brick wall right now. But how we find our power in the moment is, dealing with the truth of now. When we live in the past or future, it's keeping us a victim. It's a form of escapism, I've learned, which is a poor way of dealing with reality. The reality, again, of things that are and cannot be changed presently, for whatever reason. What's more powerful is to not make decisions on what was past and what may be future, but make decisions on what is present. And you know what? I've learned that this is true for a lot of things in life, not just, the milestones in life that we're trying to hit, getting that relationship that's so wonderful, or getting that job, or that pay increase, whatever it is to you, okay? With finances, I've learned, don't make decisions or plans about your money based on what you're forecasting, what you think. Oh, I had a good month this month, so at the rate I'm going now, I should be making XYZ 3 months from now. Well, deal with what you're making 3 months from now when it's 3 months from now. This is something I've just, by the way, learned in life. And do what you know is right without fear, because fear is what causes a lot of people to do what they know is right. Like, there's a fear. If I don't make this happen, I'm never going to get out of here. That's fear. But the reality is, I know that right here, right now, given my present reality and circumstances, it is the right thing for me to stay here and to keep fortifying my position. And I know as the longer I stay here, the stronger footing I get, so that when I do leave, I'm in much better standing to leave and not have to return. So some of you maybe need to do the same thing. You need to really get into a logical space where you ask yourself objectively, what is the right thing for me to do, and do it fearlessly, without fear that, well, this means I'm never going to get out, or I'm never going to find love, or I'm never going to this or that if I just, let it go for now. Some of you also need to stop asking about consequences. Like, yeah, what if I never find someone, or I never find something like that again? Oh, well, what if you find better, But if you choose what's right for you right now, okay, not what was right for you in the past or what you think might be right for you in the future, but just right now, you choose what's right for you, then you make a powerful contribution to your life. And what's right is what? It would be not pursuing non-reciprocal relationships, not acquiescing to power grabs by those who abuse their authority. Those will be the right things to do. I say this all the time on my channel. We can't control how others behave, but we can control how we respond. And again, that's our power. That's that dichotomy there of, yeah, others do create reality. So do I. We're co-creators. They have their free will. I have mine. They can do what they want to do, and I can decide how I'm going to respond to that. Okay, so that brings us to step 2, accepting and surrendering. Letting go, giving up. This is the art of allowing what it is to be what it is, And I'm laughing, but I'm not making light of this. It's not easy, and yes, it can very much hurt, because it's almost like you're accepting defeat. That's kind of how I feel. That's how I feel with these boxes back here. That I lost, right? Again, that's a mindset. We're going to talk about that in a moment, but it's a very real feeling. And I want to make sure that I'm addressing that, because I know many of you have probably felt this way. Sometimes, right, we've gone through situations where we've wanted people who didn't want us. At least not enough to make the tough decisions to be with us in the here and now. And, not make us wait. Or maybe you felt like, there's no one for you, or that there's no meaningful place for you to work where you can call your own. So, if you find yourself in these situations, you might feel rightfully angry, resentful, like, why does it have to be this hard? So I think the solution to this is that we've got to look at the valued opportunities in the here and now. And it might look like other people are getting ahead of you, life's passing you by. Oh my gosh, I've so felt this. Right now, as I'm like sitting here with my boxes, I'm hearing about other people who are moving. Hey, we're moving. Like, okay, well, I don't know what's happening with me, but other people, it seems, are getting to move on with their life. But here I am again, still stuck, And even like, let's say over the last 2 years, I've seen a lot of people get in and out of relationships and breakups, and I've remained single the entire time. And so it looks like, oh, poor me, why can't I seem to find anybody? These people find people like that, and they're just getting on with their lives. But then you let a little bit of time pass, and then you find out that some of these people are actually not moving on and making progress with their lives. They're just going in circles, because they end up breaking up and having how many relationships in the same amount of time that I've been single. So, who is better off, me or they? It's maybe having to do with perspective. What's important to you right now in the here and now? Progress or the appearance of progress? Something to think about. Many of us were waiting on these life-defining moments to come in. We're waiting for someone else to make the decision, to offer us the job, to give us the promotion or the raise, to get that breakthrough, to meet the one, But that's precisely the problem, I think, is that we're looking at our solutions as being external when we need to look at what we can do on an internal basis to cause reactions in others, rather than just being constantly in reaction to others, you know. We've got to make a decision at some point, you know, if we're gonna let huge disappointments define us, you know, what didn't happen, what wasn't offered, you know, what was denied, what was rejected, you know, all of this. Are you gonna let this define you, or are you going to define its meaning to you in your life? And that's pretty challenging. I don't say that like it's, you know, I mean, it's almost like a Rubik's Cube for me, trying to unravel what I just said to you. Okay, sounds simple, but, you know, in theory, but in practice, not so much. So I do also think there's a time and a place to grieve, you know, feel the pain of those hopes unfulfilled and those dreams shattered. See people for who they are, not how you want them to be or who you hope they'd be, you know, but who they choose to be, not who they could be. And I've said this in my other videos. If your thing that needs to get unpacked here is about relationships, well, you know, don't date people's potential. You know, we get into these project fixer-upper relationships because we're dating somebody's potential. We're not dating who they choose to be in the here and now. Yeah, they've got a sob story that they had some bad luck and they're trying to dig out of a hole and yada yada, but, you know, sometimes that's a cover story for, I made some bad decisions and I like it, and, you know, I just need somebody to feel sorry for me, and I'm not actually going to make any changes in my life. I'm just unhappy about the consequences of my unchanged behavior, and I want somebody to sympathize with me not changing my behavior, or sympathize with me for having to deal with the consequences of my behavior. That's all that really is. So, but once you really get to seeing people and circumstances for what they are, I mean, unapologetically, no excuses, this is what it is, then you're closer to this acceptance part that I'm trying to share with you. You know, you get to a place where you start accepting, I can't control the government, I can't control the economy, my boss, my partner, my whatever, fill in the blank. And that, you know, can feel very disempowering. It really can, especially when we're so, dare I say, enmeshed with so many, you know, like it or not, I'm affected by the economy, you know, we all are. And then to not have any control over that is, but the positive about this is that when you know where your power ends, it helps you define where your power begins, and then you can position yourself accordingly and effectively, right? So maybe the dollar collapses, but maybe I position myself so that I put all my savings in silver and Bitcoin, or you know what I'm saying? There's always a way around. Like, yeah, I can't control what's going on with the Federal Reserve, but I can control my response to the Federal Reserve. I digress. Let's get back on topic. And I want to give you examples of this, like, consider the Chinese finger torture little trick. You know, that little party favor where you put your fingers in, and when you try to pull out, it just kind of locks your fingers in there. How do you get out of that? It seems impossible at first, like you're trapped, okay? But the way to get out of it is that you don't fight it. You don't resist it. You pull one finger at a time, and gently your finger will be released. Pulling out at the same time is gonna tighten this thing, and pushing forward is going to loosen it up. So it's an energy of resisting versus allowing, and then you're gently able to pull out of that trap. So right, this thing that you thought you couldn't get out of, you can. It's just strategy, it's tactic. There is a way. there is a possibility, but it's not the way that you thought, right? Another example is like quicksand. People say that if you try to climb out of quicksand, you're just going to sink deeper in. The more you move in there, you're going to sink deeper in. So what do? Stillness. That's what stops the sinking. And some say it's really your only chance of survival is just to sit there and wait for somebody to come along and help you get out of it, okay? So with those examples of the Chinese finger torture trick and the quicksand, we can see how sometimes we get trapped by our own doing. By struggling and resisting, we get deeper entrapped by this thing. And it's our own resistance to what is that causes this, and our own need to control outcomes that causes this. The solution is let go of one issue at a time until you're entirely freed. There's a saying, it goes a little something like this: I can't control the wind, but I can alter my sails to make it take me where I want. Let's apply it to a real world example with these boxes here, okay? Again, my boxes might not be exactly like your boxes. Your boxes might be something else that you need to unpack, okay, that you're waiting to unpack. It's on hold, you know? But in my situation, I wanted to move, but as far as I can tell, that's not likely. In the here and now, my reality is telling me that this is not yet happening. I don't have the green light. I have had to acknowledge and accept that, right? Steps 1 and 2. I've had to sit with and grieve what it means for me to not get this thing. And yeah, it's loss of opportunities, loss of connections, because in many ways my life has been on hold. I haven't really dated people. I haven't really tried. I've been like, well, what's the use? I'm not going to stay here. I don't want to start a relationship. I have no intention of staying here, you know. I've been kind of a recluse because, again, I'm like, I don't want to form relationships with people and just leave. You know, I'm going to focus on my business so I can get out of here sooner than later. A lot of my life has been on hold. Same with my kids, because it's future living, right? Not present living, which as an Aquarian, we're at fault for doing. I got a lot of Aquarius and Pisces placement. Future, future, future. Okay. So I'm laughing, but really it's been grievous. I mean, if I can be completely honest with you, it has been. And so, you know, I've had to feel the feelings. Off camera, very defeated, feeling utterly useless, like nothing I do ever fix it. Like, why doesn't this ever happen? Why can't I seem to get this together? Why has this been going on for 3 years now? You know, why the constant struggle? It's never good enough, you know? I would not deny, repress, hide any of that. Get that shit all out in the open, all right? And then bring yourself to the so now what question. And the so now what is, I've got to reassess my values and refocus on what I can control. That brings us to steps 3 and 4. Okay, step 3, reassess your values. What are you afraid of happening or not happening? Okay, like if this is a job, you know, are you afraid of getting the job or not getting the job? Remember, it's not about the job, it's about your abundance. Or if this is a relationship, not getting or not getting a relationship, remember, it's about the love. That's really what it's about. When we tie this all up into one job opportunity or one romantic opportunity, we really, really limit ourselves, okay? And it's very disempowering. So I think another question we have to really ask ourselves is, what are we willing to continue sacrificing versus not? You know, how has your life been put on hold over this? If you've been waiting on this life-defining moment, this opportunity, how has your life been put on hold over this, and for how long? And at what cost? And how much longer are you willing to continue doing this? I will say, for example, where I live right now, you know, I moved out here as a sacrifice. It wasn't what I wanted, but I didn't have a lot of good choices at that time. I decided to do what I knew was right, to position myself in a better way. And in that respect, that's proven to be a good thing. I know that I, did make a mistake when I came out here. It has turned out a lot of good things have happened from me coming out here, and I am more strongly positioned now. However, things didn't happen for me as quickly as I had hoped or needed. And so I reached a point, I thought this was going to be like a 6-month sacrifice. It's turned into a 2-year sacrifice without end. I still don't see the end in sight. So I reached a point at this 2-year mark where I'm like, I got angry. And I'm like, I did not sacrifice for this. I didn't come out here for this. This is not the return on investment that I bargained for. I'm not getting what I wanted out of this. And if I'm not getting what I want out of this, then I am unwilling to continue making this sacrifice. So back to you, are you willing to continue? If you aren't getting what you value out of it, it's something you got to ask. What are your current wants and needs? Because it might be different right now from what they were in the past. Like what you were willing to sacrifice 2 years ago, you might have hit your limit and you're like, what, I've had enough of this. I can't take this anymore. And some of you know that you've had enough and you can't take anymore, but you stay with it anyway. And for those of you who that resonates with, you got to ask yourself, why are you doing that? What are you getting out of staying versus not? Okay, so like say it's a relationship that's dead and over with, and you know it. You know that the breakup is inevitable. You're just dragging out the inevitable, okay? Why are you doing it? What are you getting out of that? Is it financial security? Is it looking like the good wife or the loyal husband to other people? What payoff or benefit do you get from not choosing to do what you know is right for you and is in alignment with your needs and desires and values? And consider how you can now, in the present, make decisions based on your current values. And be mindful of the fears that cause you to self-sabotage those values and keep you in a constant state of having unmet needs. Okay, so for example, like if you are working a job that is soul destroying, but it keeps your bills paid, you see how this is maybe an unconscious conflict, okay, that you're dealing with. Like, I know I need to leave this job, but I hate it and it's destroying me. It's killing my health. It's killing my spirit, but I got to pay my bills. But you see what I'm saying? Here's another example. With this global lockdown that's occurring, you're tired of wearing a mask. You don't need to wear a mask. You might even think the mask thing is like, heck, even the CDC came out putting labels on all the mask boxes saying it does not guarantee protection from COVID, and you're just like, look, I'm done with this whole thing. Can we get back to normal? I don't like this new normal. I like the old normal, but some of you, you feel like you should speak up against this and stop complying with this, but you don't want to be a troublemaker. You're seen as a troublemaker. You don't want to rock the boat. Here's another example. Somebody is toxic for you, but you can't deal with being alone right now. All right, that brings us to step 4, refocus on what you can control. What can you realistically put your hope into? What can you realistically be vulnerable to right now and relax into right now? It's easy for us to focus on the choices that we don't have and what we can't do and what isn't possible and what was denied or not offered or given or whatever. That's easy. But the power is in focusing on the choices that you do have in the here and now, even if they're small, even if they're less than ideal, right? And consider as well, how have I given my power away and how can I get it back? Are there ways that you can get your power back because you gave it away? A lot of times people who give their power away, they reason within themselves, well, I had no other choice. And I've done this, I've been guilty of it, and I had to, in my self-healing time, you know, get honest with myself and realize actually no, I did have choices. I just didn't like my choices. I was waiting for an ideal life to find. I was waiting for it to drop from the sky. I was waiting on somebody to make it easy on me. I was waiting for this to automatically turn around and make it easy for me to just get out of this, like a hero comes, be it, you know, save me or rescue me from this reality. And I was just going to stay in it until that happened. And it never happened, so I just stayed stuck. And so, you know, and I told myself, well, I didn't have any choices. I didn't have any better choices. I didn't like my other choices. And I was trying to control outcomes. I was afraid that, well, if I go do that thing over there, it's just going to be a lateral move. I mean, I'm just going to be trading that problem for a different problem. And granted, there were times when I got sick and tired enough of being that kind of sick and tired that I was willing to be this kind of sick and tired. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I've had enough of that. I know this is going to be a problem over here, but it'll be a different set of problems because I'm tired of this set of problems, you know? And so I did that for a while. And those of you who are stuck because you're just like, well, this is less than ideal. These are not the choices I was looking for. You're trying to control outcomes, and it's because you are not accepting and acknowledging the truth, which is the last two steps we covered. Okay. You do have free will. Yeah, other people have free will too, and they will use that free will to apply significant levels of pressure upon your free will. But then you will often choose out of fear or pain to comply with them. But again, that's your choice, that you're going to cave to the pressure. You're going to comply. And then you're going to say, well, they made me. They made me. But the reality is, and I heard Till Swan talk about this, and it was so spot on. She's like, you got to realize when you're saying they made you, there are people throughout history who were not going to be made. They chose death rather than servitude. So, you know, your free will is very powerful. You do not have to subjugate yourself. You might not like the options, but you have options. For some of us, this is going to require a perspective shift, going from this victimhood mentality to an overcomer mentality. You first have to address, have you acquiesced to what you perceive as more powerful than you? Like, for example, what's going on right now with this global lockdown, prison planet, you know, have you given your power away through compliance? Because you perceive that other people in authority are more powerful than you, when in reality, they have no authority apart from us. Consider, for example, Hitler in Nazi Germany. His only power was through the people who willingly subjugated themselves to him. Apart from it, he had no power. You see this a lot in codependent narcissist relationship. The narcissist is actually very weak on their own. Their only power is through supply from others. Once you cut off supply, they don't have power, okay? So how are you empowering these forces in your life? How are you feeding these forces in your life that are not feeding you? Can you redirect the energy in a more empowering way? Also, avoid hyper-focusing on what you can't do. Again, you know, there's a time and a place for this. Maybe getting clear about where, you know, your power ends and where it begins, right? But you dwell on that too much, then you're going to waste your energy, and it is quite futile, because it can over time drain you and displace your own power. So the more constructive thing to do in these circumstances is ask yourself, how can I? How can I? Like, focus on the possibilities, not the impossibilities. Maybe you can't move to where you want. but you possibly can move closer to what you need right now, what is right for you in the here and now, which over time is going to get you closer to what you do want. Some of you, by the way, would probably be benefited, you know, if you start setting like daily goals and see yourself achieving even the smallest things, checking things off the list psychologically, makes you feel like you have a sense of progress and that you are affecting change in your life, that you do in fact have some power to move things in your life. Okay, so we've talked about the 4 steps to getting your power back and dealing with some very disempowering situations. Let's talk about the mindsets that keep us stuck. This spiraling that we sometimes do in our thinking, where we keep going round and round with the same tapes in our head about they should have this, or that should have happened, or this wasn't fair, or why did they do this, or why can't they just do that, or yada, 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 yada. And it's the same over and over and over again. And yeah, all these things that you're thinking in your head might be absolutely true, but it puts the focus on the impossibilities and the limitations when you could be using your time to focus on what is possible and what is not limiting you at this time that you could tap into. Sometimes I think we do this because we've learned hopelessness and helplessness in childhood during formative years. And if that's you, you might find it helpful to do like what I've done. I have to remind myself, like, I'm not a child or dependent anymore. I can. What can I do? I can speak up. I can say no. I can refuse to comply and go along with this. I can choose to not engage with this person anymore and put my energy over here. I'm not a subject. I'm not a child or dependent anymore. I do have choices as an adult. And, until you get out of that mindset and snap out of it, which a lot of us were conditioned into as children, and especially if you had parents who never really prepared or released you or acknowledged you as an adult, you've got this, whether you're realizing it or not, at a subconscious level, you're waiting around like a child for others to do for you, maybe things that you can only do for yourself. Granted, if you're like me, I've done all I can in the natural. I have. I'm waiting on something to happen in the supernatural, okay? If you've done all you can in the natural, then this is not for you. But those of you who have not done everything you can in the natural, and you are wanting God to do for you what you're not willing to do for yourself, or you're waiting around for another person to do what you're not willing to do for yourself, you're in childhood mode and you need to step out of it. You need to tell yourself, whether my parent prepared and released me and acknowledged me for adulthood or not, I'm taking dominion and authority as an adult in my life. And, I'm going to stop seeing myself as dependent on other people for my happiness, like a child. Like, stop linking a job to your abundance rather than linking your abundance to the skills and the talents that you have, or linking a particular person to your ability to love and be loved. You are not that small of a person. You're not. I'm not diminishing your connection that you might have with somebody. It might be absolutely phenomenal and unique and supernatural, okay? I'm not going to make light of that. But they're not the end all be all. And so you gotta say no, whether this is a person or circumstances or some kind of opportunity, say no to, excuses in making your own choices about how you're going to respond to other people's choices in life, and make a decision that you're going to be the best advocate for yourself and your well-being based on the truth of here and now. For example, that person is not showing up for me in the here and now, then it's best for me to release them. It's best for me to release unreciprocated relationships. or if that job is not being offered to me right now, it's best for me to release what's not valuing my time and my talents. Again, we go back to that Chinese finger torture. Release, let go, stop resisting it, accept what it is. And take responsibility, you know, even if it isn't your fault. I know this is going to be hard for some of you to hear because you associate taking responsibility as you being to blame, and that's not what I'm saying. Taking responsibility does not mean that you're at fault. It just means that you're resolving the problem regardless of who's to blame. And you're doing this because when you're not responsible, you're not able to respond. You have no power in that moment. So you've got to recognize where you do have the confidence to create and cause change in your life rather than merely being impacted and affected by other people. Okay, so I want to wrap it up by saying, you know, there's an opportunity here for us to rise up, redefine, and rebuild our lives. There's a saying that I've reminded myself of for years now: delay does not mean denial. I know when you've been delayed for a very long time, as have I, that's hard to swallow. You know, and at times I feel like Spirit reminds me, you know, change is constant. You're not always going to be here. You know, it's just a matter of time. I will move. But why it's taking so long, you know, that can play with your confidence. It can play with your sense of power when things get dragged on for so long and you start becoming hopeless or feeling helpless. And you know, it kind of reminds me of that movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, with Will Smith. And I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's not a happy story. It has a happy ending. But the majority of the movie is not very happy because this guy, you know, was dealt a very bad hand of cards in life. But he finished well because of how he played them. And I really feel like that's the message here. If you were dealt a bad hand, okay, it's how you play these cards. I've seen people who were dealt a great hand in life and they squandered it. You know, and other people who were dealt a bad hand, somehow they rose above it all. They redefined, you know, who they are. They let the situation redefine who they were and what their power was, and they rebuilt their lives. You know, it's not the cards you're dealt, it's how you play them. And granted, I'm not saying it's easy. Don't get me wrong here. I've got a saying, you know, with my girlfriend. She knows it's kind of an inside joke. I say level 10, level 10. And what that means is that, you know, on the treadmill of life, I feel like a lot of times I'm on level 10 and other people are on level 1, you know, like why do they get ahead so quick, so easy, so effortlessly, it seems. I don't really know what their other struggles are, you know, but a lot of times I feel it's level 10, you know, resistance in life to whatever I want. And so I'm not at all making light of people. If you feel like you've been dealing with level 10 resistance, level 10 adversity, I'm right there with you. Right there with you. But I think that even so, we have to focus our power on what matters and has meaning to us, and be very purpose driven in where we're going. Most definitely, if you feel like you're dealing with a very high level of adversity, you have to be super focused and concentrated on where you do exert pressure or effort, because you know that you need all the energy you can muster for that. Also fully committing to that purpose, you know, being driven towards those ends, being fully committed to that is going to bring about what you want regardless of others. Not letting other people distract you, not letting people devalue, like you know, and I've had a lot of people, you know, recently come in and try to get me off course and get me onto their thing, okay? They've tried to derail me and get me focused on what they want me focused on, their agenda, their purpose, their whatever. And I'm, you know, and if it's not a mutual thing, like they're not helping me get where I'm going as I'm helping them get where they're going, we got to part ways, because I'm not going to be divided. I'm going to be single-minded in my direction. So don't put your dreams on hold for someone who is content to make you wait or lose for their gain. Being willing to do this might require a willingness to go in the same direction as some people or not, okay? It will be different for different people. It might require you to lead, or it might require you to follow. And some things or people might have to get left behind in order for you to get where you're going. Others of you, you know, ask for help where you can to expand your efforts exponentially, okay? Think about who can help you, who can and will do something about it, because a lot of people, we end up wasting our time and energy talking to people who can't or won't do anything to help us. Really sit down and hone in on who are my resources, who can help me with this, and more importantly, who's willing to. Sometimes, though, you got to sit down and have those conversations to really figure that out. One thing comes to mind is this tapestry of threads, you know, where in life it's like we're trying to weave this picture in a beautiful tapestry we call life, right? We're trying to create this beautiful life, but perhaps a color runs out of thread that cannot be replaced. Then what do? Your challenge is, how do I create a beautiful masterpiece without this thread? How do I complete this work even though it will not be completed as I had hoped or planned? It's a real challenge. And think of another situation where I've seen a lot of these you know, reality TV shows for chefs, you know, where they are given, you've got different contestants who are given access to the same food pantry, the same ingredients, but, you know, some see the possibilities in limited choices, whereas others get stuck in what can't be made or what can't be created because the ingredients for that plan are lacking. Figure out how to make that beautiful meal, right? That you enjoy eating, even if it's not the one that you had hoped or planned for. And then who knows, maybe it might turn out better than what you had hoped or planned for. I think it goes back to remembering, it's kind of like playing the hand that you're dealt, right? Remember, it's not about what you have. It's about what you're able to do with what you have. You can make the most out of a challenging situation if you do your best, despite the difficulties. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing here. Those of you who've been wondering, what am I going to do? I am going, you know, I sat down and I asked myself, what would I be doing right now if I was unpacking these boxes in my house where I want to live right now? And after I got the answer to that, I'm like, okay, so I'm just going to go do that. I'm going to be as if I've moved into that house. I'm going to get these boxes. I'm going to stop staring at these damn boxes. I'm going to go put them down in the basement as soon as I'm able. And I'm probably going to buy a piece of furniture back here for, it will go into my next new home. And I mean, and if I had moved, I would be getting that piece of furniture, you know, so I'm going to go in and get it now. And, you know, I'm going to be as if. And I'm going to continue doing everything that I need to do within my power to make this move happen. And I'm going to surrender to the rest happening within God's timing. So to wrap it up, the 4 steps to get your power back are to acknowledge the truth, accept the truth, reassess, and refocus. And if you do that, then you're going to be able to rise up, redefine, and rebuild your life. At least that's my hope for you. Thanks for watching.